Okay, everybody, please remember, if you're talking to a microphone so that Dixie can hear and so the recording can get it. So we've been working on making a business plan, and so far we haven't planned much. We've just been figuring out what you did and where the numbers go. I am going to share my screen, and just as a quick review, I got to move stuff around here. Come on. We went over to the end and put your percentage, your GCI, so we can get your actual commission rate for the year. Then we went to budget, because we need to know how much money you need to make to run your business. Now, just to give you another example, well, I told you all that this bottom half could be very useful. On the other hand, depending on how your bills are paid at home and whatnot, you may say, here's the salary that I'm going to draw from my business for the year, and I'll just take care of the bills on my own because I know what it takes at home. Okay, you can do that and just put in a bottom line number here. But somewhere along the way, you want to know, how much does it cost me to operate? How much am I going to take home? From there, we went to the goals of the agent, and this is where we start getting into some more better work and real numbers. Let me see. I'm just going to go this way. I think there's a way I can close this ribbon here so I can see better, but I'm not going to worry about it now. So up at the top, I said, well, I've got a couple of other things I need to do. Fix my transmission, take my grandchildren to World of Fun. And yes, CC, that's because I have lots of grandchildren. I got a lot of grandchildren. And we're going to World's Fun in Japan. So this year I need to make that number from above, my personal expenses, my business expenses, and on top of that, I'm going to show a profit. Now, Lance had asked about putting other numbers in. You could do that here by putting a negative in and so on. And then I come up with, what's my average sales price? And now I showed you all where to find that last week. This average commission rate is, again, right next to where all of that average sales price is, or you can figure it by hand. And from that, it comes up with my average transaction, average sales price, average commission, the check that's written at the title company is $7,500. My commission split, my actual one after all of the franchise fees and everything, and if I hit cap, last year was $6,000 is what I take home. So to make this much money to fill up these needs I have here, it says I need 20 transactions. Is everybody following me? I'm just kind of reviewing a little quicker now. So I think personally, I want to do 50% listing, 50% buyers. You may say, I want to do 70% listing and 70% buyers. Do you know why it matters? It matters because there are, if you have buyers, you might spend more time showing housings. If you have listings, you spend time servicing the listing. You have to decide what each of those time elements come up with. And that's why you suggest what you want to do percentage-wise. So if I say 50-50, I need 10 closings, listings, and buyers. Now, according to national statistics, if I have 12 pending sales, 2 of them are going to fall out to get my 10. So the computer or this little spreadsheet says, if you want 10, you have to have 12 pending. If you want to get 12 people to pending, you've got to have 15 active listing clients. If you need 15 active listing clients and you get 85%, again, the national statistic of your listings go to active, then you need 18 appointments to get 10 closings. Does all that sort of flow? Because it's going to make a little more difference in a minute. So then it says, okay, the average number of appointments I need based on these numbers are 1.9 appointments, or nearly 2 appointments to get to a closed transaction. These figures play in for you. If I need 37 appointments and I only work 40 weeks a year, because it's telling me if I want 20 transactions, doing the math, I work 40 weeks a year because I take a lot of time off. You can change that to 50 weeks a year if you want. You can't change it to 56 weeks a year. Do you know why? There's only 52 weeks in a year. Come on, people, play with me here.
We're all in a sugar.
Okay. And I'm going fast, and you're saying, wow, all this math confuses me. I get it, but that's why a lot of this is already put in there for you so you don't have to. If I am only working 40 weeks a year, I need 30 appointments or 30 contacts to get 1 appointment. Now, where does it get that? When you put in some numbers, one of the things it says is, if I am, that's just an average. Number of prospecting appointments, they round up. Number of days worked per week, maybe you work 6 days a week, change that to 6. Some of us work 6.5, because I work half a Sunday almost every week, it feels like. Then based on all the numbers I need to make dollars and the national averages or the real averages I put in, and all of this stuff here, I need to talk to 6 people a day. Now, I want to say something about this because I know Dixie, I know Cheryl, Brenda, Pam have built tremendous referral. And some people imagine referral means I'm sitting at home waiting for them to call me to give me, somebody else to work with. Well, one, that's sort of true, but if you don't remind them you're in real estate, they'll forget you, I promise. So you have to remind them periodically. You need to make some sort of daily contact with a number of people. The other thing I will say is all those people I named off have been in the business a long time. You don't get that the first year you're in real estate. You may not get that the third year you're in real estate. And I will tell you, Dixie said something, I'm picking on you, Dixie, I hope you don't mind. Dixie said something very important to me last week. She says, I do a good referral business, but I want to go to the next level. So I need a plan to get there. What we're doing here is building a plan that says, if you take these steps by what you said you wanted to do, what the national averages are, what you did last year, you should get to this level if that's where you want to be. Now, again, it's based on averages. It can change. The market can change. But at least you're doing something more proactive than sitting at home or hoping people see the refrigerator magnet you sent out 3 years ago. Does that make sense? Comment?
I have a question. If you covered this, I'm sorry, because I was taking notes. On the average number of prospecting contacts needed to result in 1 appointment, that number on the spreadsheet is set at 30. Is how do we
Type in whatever you want.
It doesn't. So I didn't know if there was a calculation or something like that based on
that. Whenever I click on a field, what you'll see up here is what is in that field.
I get that, Greg. What I'm wanting to know is how did the number 30 come up?
That one is based on what Better Homes and Gardens or Realogy has taken, and some of these are NAR averages. But we're going to affect those in a minute. Okay. So let's just still stay with that daily 6. But then we come down here, which we've not touched yet. And we haven't touched this for that matter. So again, this 1.9, that's a calculation based on all the data in throughout this. Total number of appointments, that's calculation. How many weeks worked a year, that's up to you. Number of appointments you need each week. Well, they do all the math based on everything and say, once a week, you ought to do an appointment. That doesn't sound so overwhelming, does it?
3 weeks per year.
That's,
You're taking 12 weeks of vacation?
I like vacations. So you can change that to whatever you want. Put 52 in there. Or let's put 50. Okay. I still need 1 appointment a week because it's rounded up because of its calculation. Average number of contacts, and I'm still only working 5 days a week. So let's stay with the 6 a day. And now let's look at these lead sources. Now I can already hear some of you say, I've never worked a FSBO in my life, and I'm never going to work a FSBO. Okay. You can say that if you want. Put in here, I had 0 from last year, and I want 0 for this year. And it takes all of that out of your calculation. Do you understand? Expireds. Well, I had 0 last year. And I put 8 in here because this is kind of where I want to go next year. But maybe I believe expireds could be something, a good source of income this coming year. Last year, things were selling so fast, very few people worked expireds. I see Lynn shaking her head. I'd be 80% sure that when Lynn was on a team, she worked some expired listing and had some success. Never? No. You can make it whatever you want it to be.
Like you have your SOI.
Right. You could put farming. You could put, maybe you don't do FSBOs, you want to do farming. You can do open houses. I was good at open houses, so I wrote open houses in there. By the way, I have been overwhelmed in the last week from broker opens from Wygan and Keller Williams and all these. So listings aren't selling right now. It's shifting. But yes, you can put whatever source in. I think you'd be a little hard pressed to work more than 4 sources.
No, but I mean, if you just don't do expired.
Exactly.
0,
Put your farm in. And if you have, let's say, a geographical farm, and you've been mailing out cards every week or every quarter for the last 3 years, and you had 5 closings from that last year, well, then you would put that number in. I mailed out, how many people did I mail to? How many closings I had from that? So yes, you can make this whatever you want. These fields up here are suggested based on traditionally what people say to do. Look at your expireds, look at your FSBOs, look at your sphere of influence. Any questions about that? Okay, so in here, you'll see that some of these, Lance was asking about things that I filled in. Well, when I click on 3.6, it's doing a very complex calculation. I will tell you that if you get these numbers down really low, let's say you did 1 and 1, this may show up odd like this one does, 1.8%. Well, I want 0 and 0, so I get 0 and 0, so I can ignore the 1.8%. But let's say last year, because remember I told you guys to look through your closings, what was the source of each closing? Well, I had 13 closings that came from my sphere of influence, or you would consider those referrals. How many people do I have in my database? I have 365 and I got 13 closings. But next year, I want this source to be 80% of my business. Now, this is a number you fill in. So I've got 80% SOI, 5% expireds, 15% open house. So then all of this does these calculations and says, if I'm going to get 16 transactions, I'm going to need to add 85 people to my sphere of influence. Cece's going, oh, makes sense. Julio's going saying, only 85? Let's go to open houses. I had 4 closings. From my open houses, I met 20 people last year. They signed in, I put them on a drip, whatever. That means I'm closing 20%, but I only want that to be 15% of my business. So this says I need 3 transactions and I need to get 15 people out of my 20. Now, I may decide, well, wait a minute, if I did that well at open house, maybe I want to make that 25% or 20%. And then I would change this to 75 or so on. But the idea now is to say, if I know how much money I need, how many closings I need, what I need for appointments, then this is telling me how many more sources, people do I need to meet, open houses and so on, do I need to do in order to get there? Now, I would agree with most of you. I don't know that I want to do expireds because you can see some of the ratios are really bad. If I contacted 8 expireds last year and converted none of them, is that really where I want to spend my time? The answer is probably not. So I may change that to 0. And I'm still going to get some of what I need down here, but I'm going to need to up some sources or get some things going to get everything to equal out. I may do more open houses. Maybe I'll do, maybe I'll put in that I'm going to make, see right now, I still have this at 95, right? So I need to make this 20. Or I need to make this 85. I've got to make this equal 100%. Now I need 16 and 4 closings, 16 from my sphere, 4 from open houses. I need to add 85 people, and I need to meet 20 people at open houses based on my ratios. Do you see how that changed? Does anybody have any questions about that? Because it's going to get worse in a minute. So again, we've got 2 things going on here. If my goal from all of this says I need to contact 6 people a day, 5 days a week, contact means handing your card out, calling your past clients, emailing your past clients, sending them a text. A non-personal drip email, I would not consider a contact. It's okay. And the neighborhood news is okay, but a contact is a little bit more personal. You know what Sandish used to say, and let's take this number for a minute. Sandish used to say this number accumulates. So if I have a goal in my brain that every day I'm going to hand out 5 business cards, that's 5 contacts. I wouldn't base it all on that. I'd go into your sphere of influence and stuff. 5 cards. And today I handed out 2. When I get home at night, I take the 3 out of my right pocket, put them right next to the door, add 5 more business cards because tomorrow I need to do 8. If you quit contacting people, you need to catch up. Because all these other numbers, you talk about your contracts and stuff, you can't go out tomorrow and pick out the one person that's going to write a house contract. You can't. It's impossible. You may have some ideas, some clues, somebody told you 6 weeks ago, but you can't just do it. That's why we got to keep contacting people. This is the activity that gets us in to be their realtor. And our book is going to talk about, that we're getting ready to do, some more valuable ways that we should learn to do it instead of just calling people up and saying, hey, do you want to buy a house? Because that don't get it. Okay. But anyway, so now we have a goal for contacts. Now we know where we need to concentrate. I need to meet 85 new people to my sphere of influence. I need to have probably 5 or 6 open houses so that I can meet 20 people. Great. Now that we know what that goal is, how are we going to plan for it? Well, let's go over to monthly breakdown. I break this into a couple of pieces here on purpose. We just got how many people we need to talk to in a daily goal and so on. That is your activity. This is tracking. They're two different things. You can't always control if somebody writes a contract. You can control whether you contact somebody or not. Activity versus results. This is where you can start looking at your results. I need to get 4.8% of my business in January for the year. That's 1.7 transactions. Now, of course, you can't do 1.7 transactions, but you could do 2, 3 transactions, and based on your average prices, you're going to hit your goal. Makes sense? So at the end of January, if you haven't done any transactions, you're 1 transaction behind. That doesn't mean that you've done your activities, that you need to step up your activities. You may need to. You may need to adjust your budget. You may need to, maybe I can't take the grandkids to Disney World this year. Okay.
Maybe World's Fun.
Oh, yeah, World's Fun. Okay. So this is more about tracking what you need to do, what you've done, rather than your activity. However, there is one thing in here that's important over here. They are telling us that in order to get a closed transaction, you need to start with that client 100 days out. So what I'm doing in October will get me the results I need in January. What I do in November get me the results I need in February. What I do in December gets me the results I need in March. Make sense? Okay. That's what this chart is showing you. So when you get into planning, we have 2 sections of this to help you with the plan. The first one is, where am I going to put my business? And for me, I'm doing sphere of influence and open houses. I took everything else out. If you want to put a physical farm in, put a physical farm in. Be sure you have numbers for that farm. How many did I close last year? And if you don't have that, then put in, find some national averages from NAR. Just a second. If you have a lead source that you use as Zillow leads, change that and put that in. I bought X number of Zillow leads last year and I closed this number, and include that in your transaction. You can do all of those. Yes, Lynn, get a microphone.
Can you add columns?
The likelihood is yes, but you're going to have to duplicate one of these columns. And we've got to double check all the calculations because I don't know where all of that came from yet.
Okay, it would be a nightmare.
The answer is, with enough time, I can probably figure it out. And if I can't, Lance can, because he's the king of, so just hit him up. Between the, huh? This is a whole lot. You mean I'm going too fast or
Like 6 pages. 8
Y-
pages.
yes,
They were trying to one up each other. and
That-
they-
that's why I did it over 3 weeks, because it is a lot. And I wanted you to go home and work on some and come back. And it gets you the most accurate numbers of anything I've ever seen. And a really, really good example is right in here. It's so easy for us to say 3% is my commission rate, period. Well, is it really? I don't know. 2.9 here. I've seen some people in the company down to 2.4. You've got to know what your rate is if you're going to figure it. You're right. I going back to the first budget page, you don't have to fill all of this out. Just write in, here's how much it costs. Here's how much I want to make, and you're done. But if you want it to be accurate, go a little farther. And we're going to get into 2 deeper pages now. So monthly breakdown, remember, this is tracking. And you set a budget and you come back to it. But this 168 hours is one of the most unique ones I've seen anywhere that, again, I'm going to talk about a little bit more. So this is trying to help you now that we know how much money you need and how many contacts you need to make and add to your list and so on to get the ratios back. How are you going to spend your time in a day? Because we broke it down from here's how much I need for the entire year. Here's how much I need per month. Here's where my time should come from, my clients I should spend. And now I need to figure out how I'm going to structure my day. Do I expect you to spend every minute on this? No, but you need to get an idea of what you do. So if we start at the top, I know 2 people here, Tulio and Elena. Tulio, you're all going, wow, this is a big spreadsheet. I know. Tulio and Elena, they call people every morning. I know you do. And you've got your number down, how many you call. Excellent. That's not the only thing you do lead generation, but that is one of the strongest sources you have. I know Tammy does a lot of door hangers and some farming areas around the listings and things she has. So she spends some time on it, and that takes design and implementation. She's got to design thing, get it printed, go hang them on door. You have to figure out how much time every day you're going to spend on lead generation. And my very humble suggestion is do it first thing in the morning. Because by the time late afternoon comes and you're negotiating a contract and the repair request and getting earnest money back from that darned other agent who doesn't like you anymore, you've got to you will not want to do lead gen, and you won't present yourself in a good, happy mood to your client. When you call your client, you want to be happy and I'm wonderful and everything's great. You don't want to do it when you're angry because Tulio took my earnest money. Right? Right. Okay. How much time every day do you need on administrative tasks? Well, I'm going to talk up Elena again. I like picking on people in class. Elena spent a lot of time on administrative tasks. And one of the things she did recently is got a transaction coordinator. Yay. She's now spending more time on lead generation, makes me money. Talking to clients gets me referrals. Showing houses gets me contracts. That's so much more fun than. And the administrative task wasn't making her money. That was just keeping the money she'd already made. Good job, Elena.
I think I now got it down to 2 hours a day.
But that's why we're going through this chart. Okay, my daily time working on business. Well, working on business would be paying your bills, designing your cards, talking to the broker, things like that. Coming to these classes. You may not do 2 hours a day. You may do 1 hour a day. Then down here, these are your tasks. If you've got a brand new listing appointment with drive time, with the CMA, with meeting a client, how much time does it take you? I'm guessing more than 2 hours. So let's put 4 hours in there. Is that too much? Everybody shakes their head, but okay. So let me see if I can get 4 hours to go in there. No, not 44. Okay. If I do that in 4, buyer consultation, that's not driving around showing them houses. That's consultation. I think 2 hours per buyer is probably okay. My time servicing the listing. I have no idea. Does anybody have any idea how much time to service a listing over the life of the listing? And it probably changed in the last couple of years versus 5 years ago. And marketing and communication with, you had X number of showings this week, and maybe we ought to adjust the price, that kind of thing. How about time driving a buyer around? Well, the last few years, you spent a lot more time driving a buyer around because you were racing from house to house to get a contract. So let's put 5 in there. Negotiating a contract, inspection, maintaining a pending, talking to the closing agent, post-closing. All those numbers are things you do. Are you happy with the house you moved in? We went to the closing. Here's your paperwork. You have to decide how much time you spend on that. And when you put those in, then what happens over here is how much weekly time do I need to get the time I want to commit? I want to commit, not what it told me, to lead gen. Well, I need 10 hours a week. Do I do it all in one day? I don't know. Maybe I do it all in 2 days. And that's if I work 250 weeks a year. How about, or days per year? My daily time on admin. Well, we just heard Elena's cut her back, working on business. Maybe I don't need 10 hours a week. Maybe I only need 1 hour a day. See how this is going through and changing? So that what we're trying to do is several things. Let's make you realize how hard you really work. Let's find out where you're spending your time. And are you overloading yourself? I'm going to play with Elena just a moment and say that she used to spend 6 hours a day on admin. And she says, yeah, I probably did. Well, that means she was working 53 hours a week because she was doing all her own admin. And then you have to get down here and say, well, how many hours do I want to sleep? I want to eat. I'm going to do my hair. I like my community involvement. How many people go to the gym every day? Okay. Spiritual, meditative, family time, and so on. How many days a week? And you'll find that, okay, I'm spending 153 hours a week with my sleep, rest, personal time, and my hours working. What if I say my other is I go to a bar? No, here we go. I'm picking on you again, Dixie. I hope you don't mind. Go to Dixie's. Thank you. You're not saying anything, Dixie. Go to Dixie's. Because
I
Dixie's
couldn't
has
find my mute button.
because Dixie's has this wonderful garage and hosts the best parties. And I'm going to spend 3 hours a day over at Dixie's. Days per week, 3 days a week. That gives me 6 hours, So now I've got 159 hours. Once I break 168 hours, I've run out of number of hours in the week. Well, I can tell you, my wife will likes this. I'm in bed 11 hours a day to get 5 hours of sleep at night. Isn't that terrible? I just toss and turn. So now look, I've run out of time during the day. I got to find some place down here or up here to cut back. And again, I'm picking on Elena. She was spending a lot of time doing the admin, and she says she has it down to 2 hours a day. Well, son of a gun, she has enough days in the week to do that. Now, as Elena says, there's a lot of sheets in this. It is complex on purpose to be extremely accurate. On the other hand, some of these sheets, like this one, you don't have to visit a lot. This one we put in because any place that has a cap, you have to know where you go to the cap every year. You have to know how much money you need. And then one thing I really prefer is, what's my average sale? How much money do I want? How do I want the listers and buyers I want? I don't want somebody telling me you have to do 50-50 or 70-30. Or I can look at last year and said I did 70-30. And then I can say what sources I'm working on. This is a very individualist plan. So it has three functions. First function, it's my budget. How much money do I need? Second function, how do I get the amount of money that I need to get there? And you can do that by what sources I like to play with. I don't want to play with who you tell me to. If you buy leads from realtor.com, if you buy leads from Zillow, all of those things, you may want to put things in here because that's how you do business. And finally, it's going to give you a way to track your results monthly. Got it? Now that's everything I had come here to preach to you about. I do not want to see your budget. This is your business. If you want to give it to me and say, I want you to call me every month and see how I'm doing, I'll do that. But this is your budget. This isn't something I'm holding your feet to the fire on. Because in this company, we don't say you have to reach X number of goals or I'm kicking you out the door. We just don't do that. We want you to reach the goals that you set. Makes sense? Elena.
I don't know how to do computers. I can't get it to save onto my computer. Says it can't be in protected.
We'll go in there and I'll either send you a blank copy or that you can save or something like
'Cause I
that.
want to be able to make changes and then pull it back up.
And we'll put it on your computer. Even if I have to send you a copy to do that, that's fine.
I don't get a virus.
No, you won't get it. And you should save it because I don't need this in my, and all of that. I just produced this. Well, I didn't produce it. Better Homes and Gardens produced it after years of study. More questions?
I'm looking at this to save it and it says save as, it says download a copy or download as an ODS. Can you tell me what ODS? That's something new that I'm starting to see.
I've never heard of a OBS.
OD.
I know, it wouldn't let me see it.
Yeah, I would say I would save it as a copy.
Thank you, Greg. I have to run to a doctor appointment. Thank you.
Dixon, thank you. I appreciate it.
We're in the same book back here.
We'll come into my office when we're done and we'll.
You have the live, you have a one that's live,
This is live.
okay. So,
Is this what you mean?
yes. Click save as, download a copy.
Did that, but then it wouldn't let me.
Save a copy online. Download a copy is where you'd want to go. I have no idea what ODS is. Open document spreadsheet. So that's something you could open up in like a Google, whatever Google Open is, or Google Docs or things like that. So they're allowing you to work in this, but then save it in an environment other than Excel. But download a copy, you click on that, and it should take you to here.
Now I just fill it out here. So it didn't save all the little things.
Probably not. On the other hand, the most intensive part of this is the budgeting part where you go by month. And if you can still pull the other one up online, you can just do the annual numbers down here and not get too worried about it. Okay. Any more questions? Any feedback?
I see lots of pros in this, but I also see that it gets into the weeds quite a bit.
It does.
And I know some of you guys are like, oh my gosh, this is so much. You can make of it what you want. You don't have to go into such the weeds. I think it's kind of cool to be able to see where your hours are at and where your sources are. How I'm going to spend more time trying to figure out where my sources of business are coming from than figuring out my business expenses. I've already have that tracked. So all I got to do is just throw the final yearly number in, and I'm good to go. So
And
figuring out my sources is what's going to be where I'm going to struggle.
you can work with just how much money and what you want to do on these first 2 pages and be fine, because it already gives you a goal. As Lance said, it gets down into the weeds, but it is kind of cool to think about, well, I need more closings in some months than I need in others, because you do, although it's normalized a lot better than it used to be. It used to be July and August were like 11% each in closings, which would then knock down January and February quite a bit, even more. So that's normalized. And I like you to at least think about the hours. I don't think you have to study it, but I do want you to think about how many hours you have, because it's real easy to say, I can take on 1 more thing. I can do 3 more things. And suddenly you go, oh man, I'm not sleeping anymore, or I skipped lunch again, or. So I think it's a good exercise, but it's not something you have to get too terribly deep in.
I'm going to throw this question out to you.
Sure.
Maybe I missed it. I'm trying to figure out, looking through this, I'm trying to figure out, okay, will it tell me where I'm at during the course of the 12 months? So if I've got my goals, my budget and all that, and then here we are, let's say 10 months in or 6 months in, or wherever you set your deal at, does it say you're ahead? Does it say you're behind? Did you see what I'm saying? In reaching what you need to pay your bills, pay your business expenses,
Well,
reach your goals.
Theoretically, yes. But again, talk about getting in the weeds. So let's come to this page right here. And let's for a minute say I had 0 closings in January. See how this number changed? It says I need 3 still. And what if I say I had 0 here? Well, now I'm only getting 2 closings. So it's doing the calculations, but it's not really adding it up anywhere, if you will. This is more like, how many did you actually do? So this is more of a results than to have you go in and fill out. And I suppose one could, if you wanted to put the income in, break it down, but it's not really set up for that. It's more set up for planning, not tracking. Now, you could always add a tab over there, probably make some planning and say, this is the top number I wanted to start from. And this is how much I did every month and subtract it out and so on. It could be done. But again, we're getting into the weeds where some people may not want to. And if you're already doing something like QuickBooks, that does a lot of it for you, or at least you have the QuickBook numbers that you can compare to your plan numbers.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am?
I thought there was something on Moxie Works where in one of the tabs where it tracks
There
your,
is.
yeah, and it tells you you're
That's on Engage.
engaged.
And you have to set up what kind of numbers you need to do at the beginning of the year. And then as you have a transaction with the client, mark it as closed. And then it will, you know, what was the MLS number, how much was the money, and so on. And that will track that for you. That's not a plan as much as it is tracking. So you are correct. By the way, how many signed up for that Moxie thing tomorrow for an hour? Thank you, thank you. There's a whole bunch of us cross country that are putting like a 5 or 10 minute little spiel in there, and I get to be one of the spiels. So it's kind of an honor that they'd ask me, number one. And mine's on websites, which will bore the hell out of all of you. I know, but you know, there is that. Anyway. Okay, I'm going to stop recording. Thank you guys very, very much.